The Rams have a golden opportunity to find their future quarterback in this year's draft. We're going to talk about a couple of names that we find interesting as Chris Sims has broken down and ranked every quarterback in this year's draft. We're going to sit and discuss a couple of names the Rams should look into to build their quarterback of the future behind Matthew Stafford. We're also going to sit and talk about a mock draft on today's Mock Draft Monday. We're going to break down 3 picks that I think the Rams should look into in terms of positions of need that we just broke down in the last episode, all on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor, press that subscribe button now, as 73.2% of you guys are watching the videos, but you're still not subscribed to the channel. So do me a favor, press that subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. First things first, I do want to talk initially about this story here. The next Rams quarterback. Who are we talking about? What are we discussing? The Rams have this great opportunity right now to really take a quarterback that maybe a lot of people are looking at as not the first round talent type of quarterback, but ultimately someone who could have some potential to be that franchise guy, right? Every single year, we have quarterbacks that eventually kind of make their way. Apologize for the notification, but eventually these quarterbacks, right, they kind of can sometimes explode, even they're drafted in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round. And so we're talking about Chris Sims here, ranking 2025 quarterback class and what it could mean for the Rams. Of course, look, I don't want to sit here and say Chris Sims is the best quarterback analyst out there. I get it. Some people like him. Some people don't. Ultimately, we're just getting someone's expert-ish opinion, or however you feel about it. We're getting another opinion out there of ranking these quarterbacks and kind of seeing what range the Rams should be looking into getting their future quarterback at the quarterback position. And so ultimately, don't really, freak out about these rankings. Don't kind of focus on that. That's not really what the focus is here. I'm not trying to say that Chris Sims is going to be right on all these guys and where he ranks them, but I do want to sit and talk about a couple of the names he's discussing in terms of the tiers and who the Rams should look into moving forward to possibly build this quarterback up behind Matthew Stafford, right? So Chris Sims, his 2025 quarterback rankings are as such. So we're looking at tier 1, we're talking about Cam Ward, right? That's out of the Rams' realm of possibility in terms of things that could happen. So here's Cam Ward out of Miami. Chris Sims says when he wants to throw a rocket, he can find another gear in his arm that nobody in his draft class has. I think it's pretty obvious. A lot of people kind of have Cam Ward as a number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. But the number 2 quarterback and a whole second tier below Cam Ward in terms of Chris Sims' rankings, we have Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. We have Jackson Dart as well out of Ole Miss. And then we're looking at the tier 3 quarterback, Kyle McCord from Syracuse. Here's Chris Sims saying, I think he can let it rip just about as good as anyone in this draft. Maybe besides Cam Ward, I would say he makes the most power wow throws in the draft other than Ward. And then Quinn Ewers of Texas, a very popular name for teams in general, but especially when we're talking about a team like the Rams, possibly trying to find their future quarterback. This may be a name you hear quite often. Quinn's arm is gifted. He has experience in the big-time college football. He can make every throw in the world and has beautiful motion. And so when we're talking about ranking these quarterbacks, the reason why I wanted to take a look at these quarterbacks for a second, just kind of thinking, right, the Rams, of course, are not going to take Cam Ward. They're not going to take Shedeur Sanders. They're not going to take Jackson Dart, probably. I think those 3 guys are probably going to go a little too high for the Rams' liking. They're not going to be able to trade up, I think, from pick 26 to like 15 to 20, which is where I think Jackson Dart, the 3rd quarterback in the draft, will probably fall. I'm not saying that he's going to go in that range for sure. I don't know the teams that are picking there, but if you were going to try to trade up, I think you would try to go with that 10 to 20 kind of range to draft a guy like Jackson Dart. And so we're talking about Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, again, too pricey for the Rams. Not really a need for them right now to go that aggressively after a quarterback. I mean, maybe you can say Shedeur Sanders a year behind Matthew Stafford would be obviously better than he would starting right away, but overall, you're not going to be that aggressive and take a guy you're going to bench right away. I mean, I guess you can take a look at the Patrick Mahomes situation, but ultimately the Rams are looking for a quarterback they want to groom behind Matthew Stafford. And so I think you're looking at guys like Kyle McCord and Quinn Ewers, but also there's some honorable mentions that I do appreciate Chris Sims kind of mentioning. Some other interesting names that we can kind of take a look at. Tyler Show, or if that's how you pronounce his name, I hope it is, out of Louisville. We have Jalen Milroe out of Alabama. We have Dylan Gabriel. We talked about it on channel before a couple mock drafts ago out of Oregon. We're talking about Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame, and then Graham Mertz out of Florida. And so what I was talking about when we were saying quarterbacks in the 2nd, 3rd, The second and third round is kind of tough to find, I think, franchise guys. I think Jalen Hurts is a recent second-round pick, obviously winning a Super Bowl, became a franchise quarterback in Philly. But really, I mean, you see a lot of guys go really late in the draft. The Dak Prescotts, the fourth-round Dak Prescotts of the world, the seventh-round Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy's of the world. I think, right, later in the draft, sometimes you find franchise guy, the Tom Brady's of the 6 rounds, right? And then second, third rounds can be kind of tough, a tough place for quarterbacks to kind of fall. But ultimately, the Rams have to kind of be open to looking into these different quarterbacks, kind of finding a guy you like the traits of, a guy that you like their kind of potential right now, and then of course understanding they're going to sit behind, again, Matthew Stafford, and hopefully grow under Matthew Stafford. You can kind of groom them to be the quarterback that you want. And so here is a little bit of an interesting perspective before my mock draft. Interesting perspective here on what the Rams should be looking into. So we talked about Kyle McCord and Quinn Ewers. This article here talking about those two guys specifically. The Rams are truly interested in drafting and grooming a young quarterback. If the Rams are truly interested in drafting and grooming a young quarterback behind Matthew Stafford, it's clear that their best options this year are probably Kyle McCord or Quinn Ewers. Sims thinks that McCord is worth drafting in the second round, considering that Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr have gone in that range historically. Meanwhile, Quinn Ewers is a better fit for the third round. If I was going to pick one of the top 4 realistic options for the Rams, Quinn Ewers is one that I would really keep an eye on as a guy that I can see sitting behind Stafford and kind of growing into potentially being a franchise quarterback. Again, I'm not promising it, I'm not betting on it, just kind of an idea I think that is very interesting to explore. Moving on from that, Mock Draft Monday. I love doing Mock Draft Mondays, even though I'm not really great at the whole breaking down these draftees or these prospects. I'm not the best at it, but ultimately I do like exploring and looking into different options of what the Rams can do in terms of this upcoming draft season. And so we're looking at the first 3 picks here: the 26th pick in the draft, the 90th pick in the draft, and the 101st pick in the draft here. First pick, again, I know, a little bit boring. I didn't really want to do it. I actually really tried to avoid taking Colston Loveland because we've taken him in the draft before in the mock drafts. We've also discussed this a lot in terms of the Rams going tight end in the first round. Not something I'm super in love with, but Colston Loveland, I did see him recently in a mock draft go in the top 15 of the draft. I'm not sure if he will fall that high or go that high in the regular draft, but I think if a guy is getting that kind of buzz, there is something to look at. I said this a couple episodes ago. Where there's smoke, there's fire. We'll have to wait and see. I think there may be a possibility there's some smoke and fire around the possibility of the Rams targeting Colston Loveland. Moving on from that, the 90th pick in the draft, the third round, their first pick in the third round. I went with Dorian Strong. Now, a C+ here from PFF, a cornerback that I kind of like, just kind of a solid size, solid athleticism, not really anything to write home about necessarily. But, we're looking at some of the strengths here. I'm pulling up Draft Network. I don't have it for you guys, but Draft Network talks about some strengths here being acceleration to stay in phase, instincts, advanced man corner, consistently forces tight windows, comfortable with his back to the QB, occasionally plays too aggressive, can play high in back pedal at times, change of direction of receivers cross as receivers cross his face. It can be a little bit difficult for him to change direction, it sounds like. So ultimately, again, when we're looking at these draftees, these prospects, I don't know why I'm calling them draftees. These prospects, a lot of times, are kind of breaking down their size, their athleticism mostly when we're talking about the third round, just kind of seeing if they have the potential to grow into a solid corner or a solid whatever position at the next level. And I think that's where Dorian Strong, I think, kind of fits for me. The Rams can develop him into being kind of a corner. Is he going to be your starting corner opposite of Ahkello Witherspoon day one? I hope so, but ultimately, third round, I don't think we can expect either of these third round picks to be full-time starters for you immediately, which is why I'm leaning toward the Rams. They should sign a linebacker. They should sign a cornerback in free agency, some kind of veteran that you can feel comfortable with if you need to, throwing them out there immediately to start the season. That's where I kind of think the Rams should kind of go. We'll wait and see how they do what they do in that sense. But Jeffrey Bassa out of Oregon, I hope I pronounced that name right. 6'1". I think he was a former safety, actually moved to linebacker out of Oregon, so that's kind of interesting there in that sense. Solid size, has room for growth in his frame. He's a little bit on the lighter side. Again, if he was a former DB in general, that's probably why he's a little bit smaller. Decent eye discipline and zone coverage. Fluid hips to turn in Tampa 2 or man coverage. So he does have a little bit of nice coverage skills as a smaller linebacker. linebacker, 6'1", not the biggest guy, so can definitely stay with tight ends and running backs out the backfield. Using hands well in coverage to help force reroutes against the run. He's physical and takes on blocks with his hands. Solid at getting blocks off, things of that nature. Has negatives against zone defense or zone runs. Looks unsure when it crashed downhill in terms of run defense isn't the best in terms of what he brings to the table at the linebacker position. But that is my mock draft of the day. Mock draft 3.0 or 4.0, something like that. Again, we can really sit and talk about, again, we're really focusing on the positions. I just did a breakdown of the positions of need for the Rams that I feel the Rams need. And so this is kind of where I have it for the Rams. Linebacker, cornerback, tight end. Those are my top 3 kind of needs for the Rams at this moment. So that's what the mock draft I went with for today's episode. You guys let me know how you guys feel about this mock draft. Again, let me know your mock drafts as well. I'd love to break them down and kind of explore some of the players you guys like in the draft this upcoming season. Actually, if you guys have time, give me a prospect that you want the Rams to really grab, a realistic prospect that you want the Rams to draft in this year's upcoming draft. Let me know that down below in the comment section. Last but not least, trivia of the day. My favorite part of the episode, where I give a trivia question. You guys give your answers down below. I shout you out if you get it right. If you get it wrong, we shout you out either way. Yesterday's trivia of the day was this question here. Future Hall of Fame defensive end J.J. Watt began his collegiate career at what school? The multiple choice options for this question were... was it A, Bowling Green? Was it B, Northern Iowa? Was it C, Central Michigan? Or was it D, Eastern Illinois? We had a few people play along on the last episode. If you missed it, don't worry about it. You can play along on today's episode. But for the ones who were here last episode playing along, these were the guesses here. We had Glider saying trivia, Central Michigan. We had Raymond saying, I'm going to go with Northern Iowa. Guess. Willie Woodall says Eastern Illinois. We had the real Jay Will say, my guess is Central Michigan, close to Wisconsin. Also, offensive line Banks is not, okay, cool, talking about the draft there. But his trivia guess was Central Michigan, close to Wisconsin. Eastern Illinois was the guess for Sudi 92. And we had Floyd saying no clue, so Eastern Illinois. Those were the guesses of the last episode. We appreciate all of you guys, whether you got it right, whether you got it wrong. The correct answer for that trivia of the day, all-pro defensive end J.J. Watt began his college playing career at what school? It was Central Michigan. So there was a guess there that said it was kind of close to Wisconsin, which I think is where J.J. Watt was from. Great guess. That was the correct answer. It was Eastern Illinois where he began his college career. If you got it right, you got it wrong. I appreciate all of your guesses regardless, and that's how I feel about this trivia of the day, today's trivia of the day. Make sure you guys hit the comments down below with your trivia guess, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. What NFL team has a mascot named Sir Purr? So obviously very specific in terms of how many teams could actually have a Sir Purr. We're talking about cats or bobcats type of kind of animals, right? So here were the multiple choice options. Was it A, the Jaguars to have a mascot named Sir Purr? Was it B, the Lions? Was it C, the Bengals? Or was it D, the Panthers? This one's actually a fun one, I feel like, because I really know there's a lot of different, obviously, mascots in the NFL, but these 4 specific lion, cat type of animals, they can all be Sir Purr, right? Technically. So I'm very intrigued to see what your guys' guesses are. I don't really know mascots' names either. I'm not really the best at that. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Again, is it the A, Jaguars, B, Lions, C, Bengals, or D, Panthers? Which one of those teams has a mascot named Sir Purr? That's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I am out.